Hey everyone, it's Movie Lover Warren 20 here, and I'm here with a brand new movie review, and this time it's for the sequel to the movie I reviewed yesterday, and that is, of course, 1990's Robocop 2. Now, when the first Robocop movie was released, it was a hit among everybody. Critics loved it, audiences loved it, made over $50 million at the box office on a $13 million budget, and it was even more profitable on home video sales. I mean, only VHS sales at the time. So, with that being said, Orion Pictures went on and decided to make a sequel. However, Paul Verhoeven went on to direct Total Recall and was unable to direct this movie. So, they got in the director of Empire Strikes Back, Irvin Kershner, to direct the movie. So, and well, we'll get to the stuff later in. Of course, when it was released, it was not as well received as the first. It wasn't too well. It was more mixed reactions from critics. It got mixed reactions from fans of the first film, and it still made a decent amount of money at the box office. But it didn't. It was not enough to surpass the first film, with only $45 million made. But here's what the movie's about. Well, after the success that was the Robocop program, Detroit is now facing, despite the success of the Robocop program, Detroit is now facing bankruptcy, especially after the police went on strike at the end of the first film, and well, now there's like crime raging all over Detroit. It's now a cluttered mess, and even the Ed 209 programs that seem to have clearly been launched by Dick Jones before Robocop killed him, as soon as Dick Jones was fired for killing Bob Morton, the Ed 209s are even proven to still not work, even with the glitches fixed, because they have to get stuck in sewers, so they're hardly able to stop crime, really. However, the Robocop program, aka Alex Murphy, is still going on strong and stopping criminals with his partner Lewis. And eventually, so OCP sees its goal of urban pacification come closer and closer, but as this develops, a new drug known as Nuke invades the streets led by God Guerrilla's leader Kane. As this menace grows, it may prove to be too much for Alex Murphy to handle. OCP tries to replicate the success of the first unit, but ends up with failed prototypes that keep on committing suicide, until a new scientist named Dr. Julia Fax, we'll get to her in a minute. A scientist straying away from OCP's path uses Kane as the new subject for the Robocop 2 project, a living god. Now, when I first saw this movie, yeah, I hated it. I didn't really hate it. I didn't really think it was that good. It was just some mediocre sequel, much like most 1990s sequels were. But however, giving it a few rewatches, it's kind of grown on me a bit over time, and I consider it kind of an underrated sequel, especially much better film compared to the next movie, aka the infamous Robocop movie I pretend does not exist. And it's kind of a much better movie now. Now, here's what I did like. And like how this movie takes more of a risk and explores unknown territory, even though they simply offer up more of the same, and that's not such a bad thing for this. And this one is less violence, unfortunately, but has a more cartoonish, but it's still R-rated gore, except a little more cartoonish this time around, unlike the more serious first film. Well, yeah. And the other good stuff would have to be, other good stuff would have to be still Peter Weller's performance. It's still good as Robocop, even though Peter Weller and Nancy Allen didn't really like the script of this movie because, well, technically, the studio kept interfering with Irvin Kershner's vision most of the time, and yeah, it kind of ruined the movie a bit. And however, there's still some good action scenes it has, like the final fight between him and Robo Kane is actually very epic, even though I kind of wish it had the score from Basil, I forget his last name, but the score from the first one, because that was kind of another one of the big problems. It lacked the score from the first film, despite that. And now I did like how it still continued the problems of the first one. Like, some of the problems of the first one clearly were still not resolved, like the police strike, and I'm glad they continued from there and didn't automatic, unlike most sequels that just automatically go, hey, the police strike ended, the end. Like, we're all just back to normal, even though we didn't settle it off screen. Like, I'm glad that at the beginning of the movie, they still had the police strike was still going on, and it was still having some effects from the first film in it, and they still kept aware of that. Eventually, in the middle of the movie, they do end the police strike, but yeah. And and this one thing character who absolutely is the worst character in Robocop franchise ever, Dr. Juliet Fox. Yeah, she's basically the one that only put Detroit in a worse state and decided to, even though Kane is an evil drug lord, but she still decided to kill him before he recovered from his injuries just to make her Robocop 2 program be successful and only put the people in more danger. Oh yeah. And when Robocop does get damaged around the middle of the film, she basically gives him these new directives and turns him into a joke. Now it is kind of funny, but still, she basically absolutely ruined Robocop and tried to make him nicer. But thankfully, he resettles all that by electrocuting himself, and of course, another bad factor is probably like that kid henchman Hob. He doesn't really sound much of an evil henchman, really. He's just kind of this bratty kid most of the time, and you'll be surprised who Hobbs actually played by. Yeah, apparently Hobbs actually played in this movie. The evil kid Hob is played by Littlefoot from the first Land Before Time film. Yep. That's what I had just realized. I had not known about until I rewatched the film. But, of course, sorry guys, I'm just trying to think here, but all in all, but despite those problems, it's still an underrated sequel. There's still great action, there's still some great gore, and still some good little awareness, and it still kind of actually acts like a sequel to the first film, unlike Robocop 3 that just seems to ignore everything. Yeah, I'm going to be talking about Robocop 3 next. But although, guys, despite the bad problems, I don't think it's as bad as people call it is. It's an underrated sequel. It's definitely nowhere good as the first one, but it's actually not as bad as what it used to be, and here's how I would rank it.
I am going to give Robocop 2 an 8 out of 10.
Well, that's 2 of them down. And now, its next review is gonna be for the worst one. Oh god. Just kill me now. Yeah, the next one I'm doing is gonna be the Batman and Robin of the Robocop films, or the Superman Quest for Peace of the Robocop films, or whatever you want to call it. So, I'm gonna be excited for that. Nope. But anyway, guys, that'll be it for this review. Thank you all for watching, and if you like this and want to see more, and don't forget to like and subscribe to Movie Lover 120.